That's a bonus. How are you doing today? Good. Are you getting some audio? 1, 2, 1, 2. Oops. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Are you good? Maybe it's mic level. I don't know. One, two, three. Hello. Okay. See? Just got to push the right buttons.
If members can go ahead and take their seats, we're going to get started here soon. This special meeting of the Anchorage Assembly to order. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Allard?
Here.
Mr. Peterson?
Present.
Ms. LaFrance?
Here.
Mr. Dunbar?
Mr. Dunbar is excused.
Mr. Rivera?
Present.
Mr. Weddleton?
Here.
Mr. Constant?
Here.
Ms. Kennedy?
Here.
Mr. Perez-Verdia?
Here.
Ms. Zolotel? Here. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Vogel, if you could please come up and lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we have the land acknowledgement. Mr. Constant.
Land acknowledgement is a formal statement recognizing the indigenous people of a place. It is a public gesture of appreciation for the past and present indigenous stewardship of the lands that we now occupy. It's an actionable statement that marks our collective movement toward decolonization and equity. The Anchorage Assembly would like to acknowledge that we gather today on the traditional lands of the Dena'ina Athabascans. For thousands of years, the Dena'ina have been and continue to be the stewards of this land. It's with gratitude and respect that we recognize the contributions, innovations, and contemporary perspectives of the Upper Cook Inlet Dena'ina.
Thank you. All right, next we have items of business. So we have 3 items of business today. We have an executive session where we will get a regular legal update. Then we have 2 motions to reconsider. So first, I would like to entertain a motion to reorder the day to take up the 2 motions to reconsider first.
Second. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Is there any opposition to the motion? Okay, hearing none, then first we have, so the order has been changed to take up 4A after 4C. So first we have 4B, motion to reconsider emergency ordinance number EO 2021-1, an emergency ordinance providing financial resources for labor, supplies, and other expenditures required to address municipal responses to coronavirus disease 2019 by appropriating an amount not to exceed $13 million from an interfund loaned from the area-wide general fund to the COVID-19 fund, approving a temporary exception to the unrestricted fund balance designation policy for the municipality of Anchorage, and providing a plan for future reimbursement of such appropriations. So this item, a motion to reconsider, was made by Mr. Weddleton and was seconded by myself. So we have this motion to reconsider. If there is I'll open it up for discussion in a minute, but if there's a yes vote on the motion to reconsider, then that item will be back before us. If there's a no vote on the motion to reconsider, then the item stands as previously approved. So is there any discussion on the motion to reconsider?
Is this working?
It should be working now. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Weddle.
Oh, okay. I urge a yes vote to reconsider this. There was an issue on the number of votes needed to pass it, and we were not at a solid conclusion. But if we consider that we have 10 assembly members and 8 was enough to pass it, if we consider with the kind of the crisp reading of the charter, it could be that we needed 9 votes and we failed to get 9. So if we reconsider this, we can then move on to postpone indefinitely, and the administration can come forward with it as a normal ordinance at a later meeting.
And actually, we do have the normal ordinance that we will introduce today and set for a public hearing on May 25th. Okay, seeing no further discussion, members may proceed to vote on the motion to reconsider. That motion is approved 9-0. So now we are back on the main motion to approve for EO 2021-1. Mr. Vice Chair?
Move to postpone indefinitely.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, members may proceed to vote on the motion to postpone indefinitely. That motion is approved 9-0, so that item is postponed indefinitely. All right, so next we have a AO unnumbered and an AM unnumbered, which after I read the titles, I will ask for the title of the AO, I will ask for a motion to introduce and set this for a public hearing on May 25th, and that will then need a second and a third. So this is an unnumbered AO 2021, an ordinance providing financial resources for labor, supplies, and other expenditures required to address municipal response to coronavirus disease 2019 by appropriating an amount not to exceed $13 million from an interfund load from the area-wide general fund to the COVID-19 fund, approving a temporary exception to the unreserved fund balance designation policy for the municipality of Anchorage, and providing a plan for future reimbursement of such appropriations. Is there a motion to introduce and set for a public hearing on the 25th?
Move to introduce and set for a public hearing on the May 25.
Second.
Third.
Okay, all right, so that is introduced and will be on our agenda for the 25th. Okay, so that completes our first item. Next is a motion to reconsider for resolution number AR 2021-166, a resolution of the Anchorage Assembly regarding the mayor's proclamation of emergency and the mayor's and acting mayor's orders and regulations issued thereunder. So this item, there was a motion to reconsider by Assemblymember Zolotel and seconded by myself. As with the last one, if there's a yes vote on the motion to reconsider, then we will come back to the motion to postpone indefinitely. If there's a no vote, then the motion to postpone indefinitely will stand. So is there any discussion on the motion to reconsider? Okay, seeing none, members may proceed to vote on the motion to reconsider. That motion is approved 9-0. Now we are on the motion to postpone indefinitely. Is there any discussion on the motion to postpone indefinitely? Mr. Weddleton?
Well, just to urge a no vote.
Thank you. All right, seeing no further discussion, members may proceed to vote on the motion to postpone indefinitely. Okay, that motion fails 9-0.
Mr. Chair, I move to amend page 2, section 2, line 24 to check the box.
Second.
I just don't want to give Jamie the power. There's only one box on line 24.
Okay, I will go ahead and accept that as an appropriate motion. And it was moved and seconded. Would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, we have two courses of action before us that appear. One would be to kind of join the mayor in her proposal to extend only to the 21st of May through the end of the school year. And then there was an amendment that was going to amend that amendment to make it effective immediately and remove references to schools. What this does is instead just immediately checks the box that ends the mask mandate.
All right, is there any discussion on the amendment?
I'd like to, sorry, can I make a motion to amend the amendment?
Sure, go ahead, Ms. Alatel.
I'd like to amend the amendment so the effective date is 8 a.m. on May 21st.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. So then this amendment, if this amendment to the amendment is approved, we'll amend two sections. It will check the box and then change the effective date to May 21st. Okay, so we are now on the amendment to the amendment. Mr. Weddleton, would you like to speak to it?
Actually, can you come back to me?
Okay, Ms. Kennedy, on the amendment to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll oppose that simply because, I certainly understand this sentiment that's behind this idea of trying
Your
to...
microphone is in trouble. You might need to pick a microphone next to you.
It's not working, huh?
You sound like you're from the future.
I am. Thank you. All right, is that better? So, yes? Okay, got it. I certainly understand the sentiment behind trying to give some additional time before we make this change. We've done that in a lot of cases when we were making new regulations. In this case, we're actually just ending one. So it just seems to me that rather than trying to, hang on to this thread of justification, we ought to just end it, be done with it. And certainly, as people or organizations or businesses need to figure out how they want to carry on with the mandate, should they so choose to, that is certainly within their prerogative. I think that's certainly within the prerogative of the Anchorage School District. We've just gotten so much information lately from CDC about what their guidelines are. Even today, the Department of Defense announced that all of their employees, about 2.5 million of them worldwide, will not be required to wear a mask anymore if they've been vaccinated, and it became effective today. So the idea of trying to just kind of hang on to this and let it go for another whole week just doesn't seem, there's no real meaningful purpose to it. And again, the Anchorage School District has within its ability to get that information out as soon as possible. They can decide how they want to address this in their schools. They've already, allowed children outside to be without masks, and they still have within their current operations, they have the plexiglass dividers between all their students. They keep their bubbles of students very small. So I just don't see that there's any point to carrying out this for another week, so I'll be opposing the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Presverdia, on the amendment to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, it's time to end the mask mandate. It's time to end it now. I understand the thought about giving more time, but the Anchorage School District is well within its right and will likely continue to put safety measures in place that they feel are appropriate for our students. And so I just want to urge a no vote on the amendment and move forward with ending the mandate as it stands. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Peterson, on the amendment to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just wanted to point out, in case people were not aware, that just the middle of last week, the city of Fairbanks had a huge outbreak and were to the point where they had 2 ICU beds remaining. And I had spoken to the mayor on Wednesday of last week, and they were preparing to start sending patients to Anchorage. And fortunately, their numbers have started to come down, as ours have as well. But I think one more week not only gets us to the end of the school year, but gets an additional week for people to get vaccinated. And I believe, out of an abundance of caution, that there might be lives saved. There were 2 deaths in Fairbanks because of that surge. And so there are lives at stake here. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Zolotel, on the amendment to the amendment.
Yes, thank you. So Mr. Peterson made a few of my points. It is for planning purposes. It's children, of course, and we have heard from the chair of the American Academy of Pediatrics that younger children, should get vaccinated when they're eligible, but if they're not yet vaccinated, they should wear masks when they're in public and around other people. That's easier to do in this intervening time with school. There's 4 days of school remaining. I understand the school district has the ability to do so, but making a change so late in the school year is just really disruptive. Similarly, if we think about those who may not be eligible for the vaccine or may need to wait due to disability or other reasons, this gives them time to talk with their employers and have this opportunity to request accommodations or make other decisions that are appropriate for themselves. If we vote to end the mask mandate effective immediately, that leaves very little recourse or time for those individuals and those who are most vulnerable among us. I understand the cases are falling and the vaccination rates are going up, but there are some who still would love to get vaccinated who just simply aren't eligible. So providing this time to plan and give people an opportunity to think through what they need to do to keep themselves safe, I think is an important step in being responsible as we transition out of this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Vogel?
Thank you. I want to echo Ms. Zolotel's comments about the lag time here will allow for some more efficient planning from a legal standpoint. What it means to remove the mask mandate is that individual corporate policies might now be the controlling thing that's in effect. And so you've got businesses throughout the city frankly throughout the country, that are in the process of trying to figure out what to do and what are the rules for their employees. Yesterday's announcement was a little bit unexpected, and therefore a lot of our companies, even the national ones, don't yet know what their internal policy is going to be or their policy for customers. And that is absolutely still something that is allowed even without a mask mandate in place. So this allows individual workers to seek accommodations and provide some time for them to be safe. It allows corporations to decide what they want to do and provide a consistent message to their workers. And those were some of the considerations from a legal standpoint that we took into consideration in recommending a delay.
Thank you. Ms. Allard on the amendment to the amendment.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out, I'm not really sure how it's disruptive when you just take your mask off and we just don't wear it anymore. And speaking to a few parents and the school board, that being disrupted for our children to go out and breathe without a mask on is actually a good thing for our kids. But I wanted to reiterate also what Ms. Kennedy had said about the Department of Defense, 2.5 million individuals, and that's coming from our federal government that started this with the COVID and the masks and the vaccines. I also wanted to say the school board are elected officials, and I find that they're truly competent to decide what would work for the school board and the schools and the district and the children. And they have a superintendent that will go by what they recommend. The other last thing I'd like to say is the President of the United States even said it. He clearly stated, I'm going to paraphrase, that if you've been vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask anymore. So I'm going to go along with the President of the United States and just say that we should do away with the mandates.
Thank you. Mr. Whittleton, did you want to speak now?
Yeah, that'd be fine. So I oppose this extension. You know, when this all started over a year ago, we didn't know much about this disease. It was scary. We saw some horrible things going on, and we really had no good tools to fight it. So we grabbed for whatever we can, which is the various closures and masks and so on, social distancing, and and in combination, hopefully they'll do something. But we're really hanging on until we get the real help, the cure, and that is, I guess it's herd immunity, but mostly vaccinations. People get vaccinations. Well, they are out there now, and there are some that can't get them. We've proven that most of us can, and most of those who can have gotten them at this point, and the most vulnerable people are almost complete, 80% or so vaccinated. So we don't need these other, things that are fairly light duty steps compared to the vaccination, which is the real help. And we shouldn't have those constraints and various mandates, and we've gotten rid of virtually all of them, which is good, and this last one's here. But these are the kinds of things you only do when your hair's on fire. You do this stuff, you got to do it now, and we're nowhere near that point. We've got the vaccines. And it also, like I say, I don't think there's anything disruptive in taking off a mask. I mean, the masks are what are disruptive. And then as far as businesses having time to plan, there has been plenty of time to plan. We all know this won't last forever. Any business that doesn't have some notion of which way they're going when this all ends, I don't know where they've been for the last year, because we knew it was going to end. And right now there's plenty of time to make a decision, and businesses don't have to change. They can do what they've been doing as long as they want, really. So there is no rush for them to change. So, now is the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I agree with Mr. Whittleton to a point that businesses likely see this coming. I will also state, though, that every time that we have changed an emergency order and it has been sort of a Friday effective Monday, we have heard a rash of complaints from businesses because they don't have the time to think about the policy, think about what they're going to do. So I am going to support this amendment to the amendment and hope my colleagues do as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no further discussion, members may proceed to vote on the amendment to the amendment. That amendment to the amendment fails 6-3. So we now have the main amendment back before us. Is there any further discussion on the main amendment? Okay, seeing none, members may proceed to vote. That amendment is approved 8-1. We now have the main motion back before us. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Yeah, so I just wanted to take the opportunity, since it appears that we are about to approve it and the mask mandate is about to end, to just clarify a little bit about the rules in the assembly chambers. So the assembly some time ago approved a policy in AR 2020-296 that required masks in these chambers. That was then effectuated into a COVID-19 mitigation plan, which does require masks in these chambers. So until such a time that a new policy is brought forward to this body that changes our COVID-19 mitigation plan, I do intend to continue following that plan as outlined. So just wanted to make sure that that is clear and on the record.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, members may proceed to vote on the main motion. That item is approved 8-1. All right, so that completes our two motions to reconsider. So next we have the executive session and legal update. I will go ahead and ask Ms. Vogel to lay the foundation for that. And then for the public, what we will do is lay the foundation, go into executive session, and we'll be moving to a different space here in the library, the Ann Stevens room, where we will be in executive session.
Pursuant to AMC 230-036A, the Assembly may recess to meet in executive session to discuss a specific legal matter, including pending litigation. And in this case, the proposal is to discuss, as we do annually, a whole slew of legal matters and pending litigation. All information shared and gleaned in an executive session is confidential. Oh, actually, maybe you don't want me to set out the rules right now. Let me ask, would you like me to set out the rules for an executive session at this moment in time?
I think that is something that we normally do when we get into an executive session. I think at this point, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Vogel, it's been a while since we've done this. So we would do the motion now, and then we would transition to the new space. Before, is that correct, Ms. Vogel?
Yeah, so I'm reading my handy guide, which we haven't used in some time. We do normally set out the rules and then make the motion. So okay. I think everyone then, including those not in executive session, can understand what the confidentiality rules are.
Great. Then if that's our normal procedure, let's follow that.
Great. I'm going to read a couple long paragraphs. All information shared and gleaned in this session is confidential. No official action may be taken in executive sessions except to give direction to an attorney or labor negotiator regarding a specific legal matter or pending labor negotiation. The session shall be electronically recorded. Recordings shall be available to assembly members and authorized staff only. The recordings become public at the date specified by the assembly at the conclusion of the executive session in accordance with code. Any discussion which occurs at this executive session should only be discussed by this body in future executive sessions. Any member who needs to leave during this session may leave, but only be updated on the discussions in a subsequent executive session or via review of recordings of the session. Special invitees, employees, and staff members that the body determines are necessary to the conversation may remain in the meeting during executive session and are also expected not to tell what happened in the executive session. The Code of Ethics, AMC 115-120, states that no public servant shall use, disclose, or release confidential or non-public information gained through the person's municipal position unless authorized by law or order of the court. Any violation may be referred to the Board of Ethics. The code provides that the board may make recommendations for corrective action. Past recommended corrective actions have included financial penalties and other professional consequences. Additionally, the municipality may pursue a civil action against an official where the release of confidential information adversely affects the outcome of litigation or negotiations or leads to increased financial liability. Such a disclosure could also subject a member of this body to a recall election. Pursuant to AS 2926-250, the grounds for recall include misconduct in office, incompetence, or failure to perform prescribed duties. A violation of municipal confidentiality obligations would meet this criteria. The code does not specifically provide for the collection and destruction of notes taken at executive session, but this has been past municipal practice to assure the confidentiality of discussions in executive session. If you would like me to collect and destroy your notes today, I am happy to. If you elect to take notes and retain them, I remind you that these notes are confidential, and the failure to properly preserve their confidentiality could implicate the same consequences I have set out in this introduction. Members of the MOA Law Department seek to meet with the Assembly today in executive discussion to discuss our annual litigation update. If this would be appropriate, a motion from the body to move into executive session to discuss these matters would be appropriate now.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? And just to be clear with the body, we will go ahead and vote on the motion. And then, actually, before we vote on the motion, I will ask everyone who's going to be in executive session to put their names into the record. And then we will vote on the motion. We will move to the Ann Stevens room, and then we will conduct our executive session. So let's go ahead and start with members of the body. If we can just start with Ms. Allard, go around, put your names into the record, please.
Jamie Allard.
Pete Peterson.
Suzanne LaFrance.
Jennifer Venneklausen.
Felix Rivera.
John Weddleton.
Crystal Kennedy.
Christopher Constant.
And then, Mr. Gates, are you going to be in executive session?
Yes, Dean Gates, Assembly Council.
And then will your interpreters be in executive session?
And the interpreters, Gina Ashman and Lisa Bean.
Thank you. Desiree, will you be in executive session? Okay. And then if we can go ahead and have our attorneys.
Eugene to the rescue.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, I'll go to folks on the phone after the attorneys.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Kate Vogel, municipal attorney. We'll also be calling in a few municipal attorneys who are not here, in addition to those behind me who I invite to introduce themselves and indicate their names. The ones that we're calling on the phone include Ruth Botstein, Bob Owens. Who else are we calling on the phone now that I look behind me? I think we're calling Linda as well.
Dee Ennis.
Pamela Weiss.
Jessica Willoughby.
Benjamin Bowman.
Ralph DeWeer.
Megan Carmichael.
And Desiree Camacho.
And then do we have anyone on the phone that's going to be going into executive session?
Austin Quinn Davidson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Anyone else? Okay. All right, then is there any opposition to the motion to go into executive session? Okay, seeing none, we will transition to our other room. All right, so once we're up and going again, the first thing I'm going to ask is for a motion to extend the meeting. I think 15 minutes should cover everything, should cover audience participation based on folks in the room and assembly comments. All right, so I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to extend to 4:15.
Move to extend the meeting until 4:15.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Is there any opposition? Okay, seeing none, then we are extended to 4:15. Ms. Vogel.
Pursuant to AMC 230036C, the recordings of the executive session we just held shall be confidential until, and here we follow the direction in AMC 230036C. Number 1, if the session concerns pending litigation, the release date shall be when all causes of action have been resolved by final judgment or when further claims arising from the matter are otherwise barred. I seek a motion from the body to retain the recordings in such a manner.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Is there any opposition to the motion? Okay, that motion is approved. Thank you so much. Okay, so now that concludes our regular business. We're going to go ahead and move on to audience participation. Would anyone like to participate? Welcome.
For the record, my name is Louis Imbriani. Listening to you guys talk week in, week out, day in, day out, you catch certain things. You pick up on kind of about how the dynamic within this room works. I want to play you something that happened today during this meeting.
Page 2, Section 2, line 24, to check the box. I move to amend page 2, Section 2, line 24, to check the box.
Second.
I just didn't want to give Jamie the power. I move to amend page 2.
Just so we're clear, that was Mr. Constant making the motion, Ms. LaFrance seconding, and then Mr. Constant saying, I didn't want to give Jamie the power. Now, I don't know what power you guys are talking about, but I am kind of curious because you guys seem to have a lot more power than I do, and that's a little bit backwards, knowing how the Constitution of not only the state, but also the United States is written, because we are for the people, by the people, and of the people. So I would like to know, for the people, what is this power? I mean, I know you guys probably aren't going to answer my questions, but I mean, I thought this wasn't about politics. This is about people's lives. Obviously, that's a joke. And I'm sorry, but when we're talking about things that violate the charter, things that violate ethics, and our previous mayor steps down because of an inappropriate texting relationship with an overage woman, yet we got people out here acting a fool? I'm sorry, but it's ridiculous. And I'm sorry that I'm a little bit emotional, and I do try to talk to you guys with some sense of level-headedness, but I'm sick of it. This is crazy. And I understand that you have to play a little bit of the game to get things by, but not when it interferes with people's lives. This is nuts. I mean, you guys never saw me before November. I never really saw you guys before November. And here we are in May. I took time off of work. I put in personal leave to be here because of the crap that's going on. And I do it multiple times a week at different committee meetings so I can pay attention to it. I've used almost all of my leave hours that I need to spend every year listening to you guys bicker, because that's what's important to me, to find out what's going on with this city so that we know how to fix it. That's all. I'm sorry for being loud, but that's how I feel right now.
Thank you. Mr. Haberman, come on. Welcome.
My name is Eugene Carl Haberman, Alaska resident for approximately 43 years. 20 of those years, Anchorage resident, currently a Matsu Valley resident. This meeting, you decided to end the mask mandate. There's no doubt that this was the wrong decision in my mind. CDC the other day announced and said this, with all due respect, those who are fully vaccinated, do not have to wear masks. And they also put a footnote to deal with and recognize social distancing. But you moved away from a meeting earlier dealing with social distancing, and you moved away from dealing with masks. You went beyond what even CDC was saying. And let me also remind you, with all due respect, that just because we were wearing masks, people still can get COVID even if they've been vaccinated. Tell that to people in Fairbanks recently. Tell that the numbers that were approaching and concerned, and they would have to be going over because they couldn't handle capacity in Fairbanks to Anchorage. How soon can that be repeated? We do not know. How soon can another variant change the equation of the numbers and how many people get? Let me also say a couple of things. As I said before about freedom and responsibility, I witnessed how the mask was handled and the disrespect out there. And not just in Anchorage community, in the Valley, where a few weeks ago at a borough, just a few minutes before a borough assemblyman, an assembly member approaches me, shouts out, standing right in front of me so everyone could hear, and said, "I've been vaccinated, but I don't want you to talk about face coverings at the meetings." The meeting at Tuesday night at the Borough Assembly, Borough Assembly members said to the staff, "We don't want to see staff being involved in helping dealing with vaccinating the people." Those are true facts. It's on the record. You expect people to cooperate, and the problem with administration dealing with what CDC was saying is, how do we know who's been vaccinated? How do we know who hasn't? The fact is the problem was going to be an enforceable situation, difficult for the public and government. All through the mass scenario, it wasn't fully enforced in this room. I worry about the future. And I also remind you, even though what you've done, the mayor still has power because they had authorization of her power. She can reinstate it at any time. With 6 seconds to spare, thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome.
For the record, my name is Rachel Colvard. The interwebs is forever. I'm so stinking mad right now. Because you're full of crap. Pretty much the lot of you. I'm pretty sure that in this meeting you all just got out of your executive session, they probably just told you what we've been screaming at you for the last 400 some odd days, that you needed to follow the charter, that you should have followed the rules. I distinctly remember telling you that myself. I hope that whatever legal recourse, that they burn you, every last one of you that had anything to do with not following the charter and not listening to the majority of the constituents that wanted to engage with you. I hope you burn.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? All right. We'll go ahead and move on then to Assembly member comments. We'll go ahead. Yep. We'll go ahead and start on this side and go down the dais. Ms. Allard?
I don't have any comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. LaFrance?
No comments, thank you.
Thank you. I am next. I don't have any comments. Mr. Weddleton?
No comments, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kennedy?
No comments, Mr. Chair. Just hope everyone has a great weekend. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Constant?
As was said, the internet is forever. I said what I said, and the power was the power to make the motion to end the mask mandate.
Thank you. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Move to adjourn.
We're adjourned.